Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into understanding mental illness.
Yeah, it's a topic that honestly touches so many lives.
Absolutely. The information we're looking at today is pretty striking. It shows that each year, something like 19% of adults experience a mental illness.
And even more for teenagers, right? The numbers are higher there.
Yeah, significantly higher, 46% of teens, and then 13% of children, too.
Wow.
I mean, when you think about those numbers, these aren't abstract statistics. These are people we know.
Exactly. Our family, neighbors, teachers, the people we work with, people in our communities. It really highlights how common this is.
But here's the part that really stands out from this info. Despite how widespread it is, only about half of the people affected actually get treatment.
That's the major challenge, isn't it? That gap between need and care.
And it has real consequences, right? This isn't just a minor issue.
Not at all. The data suggests untreated mental illness links to, well, higher overall medical costs, for one. And then poor performance, at school or work, fewer job opportunities.
And tragically, it mentions an increased risk of suicide, too.
Which is incredibly serious. It really forces us to ask the basic question.
What is mental illness, actually, based on what we're seeing here?
Well, the way our sources define it is as a physical illness of the brain.
Physical illness, that's key, isn't it? Not a character flaw.
Precisely. It emphasizes the biological aspect. It causes disturbances in thinking, behavior, energy, or emotion
Okay.
that get in the way of coping with, the demands of everyday life.
So it's more than just, like, having an off week or feeling stressed.
Definitely. We're talking about disturbances that really impair function. And the causes, well, they're complex.
Right, not just one thing. The research is uncovering layers.
Yeah, multiple factors. Genetics can be involved for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Brain chemistry is another big area, those neurotransmitters. Even differences in actual brain structure.
And trauma comes up, too.
Yes, trauma is a significant factor. And interestingly, connections are being made with other medical conditions.
Like heart disease you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. It shows how linked mental and physical health really are. It's all interconnected.
So within this big picture, the information highlights a couple of types as being particularly common.
That's right. Anxiety disorders and mood disorders seem to affect the largest numbers based on this data.
Let's talk about anxiety disorders first. I think, most people have heard of anxiety. What falls under that umbrella?
It's quite a broad category, actually. The stats suggest over 19% of adults experience one each year.
19%. That's almost 1 in 5.
It is, and it includes things like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder,
Okay.
OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, panic disorder, which involves those sudden, intense panic attacks,
Right.
generalized anxiety disorder that's more persistent, ongoing worry, and then various specific phobias, too.
So a lot of different experiences, but linked by that sort of excessive fear or worry.
Exactly. That's the common thread.
Okay, and the other big category mentioned, mood disorders.
Right. These affect nearly 10% of adults annually. The defining feature here is difficulty regulating mood.
And the main examples given.
The information focuses on depression, characterized by that persistent sadness, loss of interest, energy changes, and bipolar disorder. That involves significant shifts in mood, energy, and thinking, from the highs of mania or hypomania down to the lows of depression.
Seeing those numbers, 19% for anxiety, almost 10% for mood disorders, it really drives home how common these are.
It does, and it makes that statistic only half getting treatment even more concerning.
So why? What's the biggest barrier identified in this information?
Unfortunately, it points pretty directly at stigma.
Stigma, even though we talk about mental health more these days.
It seems so. While general awareness might be better, the negative attitudes, the stereotypes, the discrimination, they're still incredibly powerful.
Where does that stigma even come from? What fuels it?
A lot seems to come from, well, media portrayals that are often inaccurate or sensationalized.
Right.
And just a general lack of public education and understanding about what these illnesses really are. And what's really striking, according to this information, is how much stronger this stigma is for mental health conditions compared to other major illnesses.
Stronger than for things like cancer or diabetes or heart disease.
Yeah, significantly so.
Yeah.
That comparison really makes you think. There's this added layer of I don't know, judgment or misunderstanding.
It feels like blame almost.
It can, yeah. And this isn't just about feelings, it has tangible effects. It directly impacts whether someone feels safe or comfortable enough to seek help in the first place.
And it affects resources too.
Absolutely. It influences funding for research, for treatment programs, for support services. When you're already struggling, facing that wall of stigma and just plain misinformation can feel, well, overwhelming.
So, okay, for people listening, feeling maybe a bit helpless about this big problem, what can we actually do? What does the information suggest?
It actually gives some very concrete, actionable steps. The first one is maybe the simplest, but also profound: respect and acceptance.
Just seeing the person, not the illness.
Exactly. Treating individuals as people first, recognizing their inherent worth beyond any diagnosis. That alone can make a huge difference in creating a supportive space.
Just basic human decency, really.
Fundamentally, yes. The second thing is advocacy.
How so? Like protesting.
Not necessarily on that scale, though that has its place. More about advocating within your own circles.
Ah, okay. Like at work or church.
Precisely. In your family, school, community groups, wherever you are, speaking up to ensure people with mental health conditions have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. Challenging unfairness when you see it.
Using your voice in everyday situations.
Yes. And the third point is education. Learning more about mental health ourselves.
Because the more we understand,
The better we can offer genuine, helpful support, and the better equipped we are to push back against myths and misconceptions when we hear them.
so it comes down to be respectful, speak up when needed, and keep learning.
That sums it up nicely. Be informed, be accepting, be an ally.
Now, this information we've been digging into today comes from Guiding Light Healthcare Services, LLC. Tell us a bit about them.
Sure. They're described as a premier provider of behavioral health and counseling services based in Warner Robins, Georgia.
Okay.
Their mission, as stated in the material, is all about providing compassionate, skilled, and dedicated care. The goal is to improve quality of life through integrated, evidence-based behavioral health care.
Sounds comprehensive. What kind of services do they offer?
It's quite a wide range, actually. They have specialized services for children, adolescents, and adults.
Covering different needs there.
Yeah, things like addiction and substance abuse counseling, therapy for anxiety and depression, support for grief and loss, counseling for trauma and PTSD, family therapy, individual therapy, help with relationship and parenting issues, and even career and life coaching.
Wow, that really covers a lot of ground.
It does seem very holistic. They emphasize that their approach is personalized, so it's tailored to the individual.
Culturally sensitive to it, mentioned.
Yes, that's highlighted. And grounded in research using evidence-based practices. They also prioritize client privacy and dignity.
And their bigger vision.
The ultimate goal seems to be promoting overall well-being, building confidence, and fostering respect within the Central Georgia communities they serve.
It's good to know organizations like that are out there doing this work.
Definitely reassuring.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway? If someone remembers just one thing.
I think the core message is twofold. First, mental illness is a common physical health condition with real impacts. It's not rare, it's not a weakness.
Right.
And second, stigma is a huge, huge barrier preventing people from getting the support they need and deserve.
And that we can all play a part in reducing that stigma.
Absolutely. By understanding more, by being accepting, by speaking up, we can collectively shift the environment.
It really makes you circle back to those statistics at the start. 1 in 5 adults, nearly half of teens.
Yeah.
So here's maybe a final thought for you listening. Think about the people in your own life, even the ones who seem totally fine on the surface. Given how common this is, some might be struggling silently. What one small change in how you think, or what you say, or what you do, could help make things just a little bit easier, a little less stigmatized for someone around you, something to chew on.